Okay, welcome everyone to tonight's Committee of the Whole for our City Council meeting on November the 17th, 2020. City Council should have the minutes from our November the 3rd Committee of the Whole meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? If not, do I have a move for approval?
So moved.
For approval.
All right, have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the minutes carry forth from our November the 3rd, 2020 meeting. Parks and Rec Advisory Board, Mayor Pro Tem Whitten.
Yes, sir. We have two vacancies. Terms begin December 1, 2020 and end November 30, 2024. We have two incumbents, Nancy Bendinger, who's served 2 full terms, and Lori Marine, who has served one partial term. For the one slot that Nancy Bendinger is rolling off of, I would like to nominate Brian O'Neill.
Second.
All right.
Second.
All right. Have a motion and a second for Brian O'Neill. All right. Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. That motion carries. We'll confirm Brian later on in the meeting.
And then for the second position that Lori Marine has served 1 partial term, I would like to renominate Lori Marine for a full term.
Second.
All right. Have a motion and a second for Lori Marine. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries, and we'll confirm Ms. Marine later on in the agenda. Thank you, Ms. Whitten. Questions for tonight's agenda for the city manager? Okay. Hearing none, is there a move to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we are adjourned. It is 6:57. We'll start our meeting at 7 o'clock. Okay, I'll call to order tonight's Auburn City Council meeting for November the 17th, 2020. Roll call, Lindsay.
Dawson,
Here.
Dixon,
Here.
Griswold,
Here.
Hovey,
Here.
Parsons,
Here.
Smith,
Present.
Taylor,
Here.
Witten,
Here.
Anders.
Here. Please rise. We'll say the Pledge of Allegiance and then have a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Tonight's committee of the whole, we made 2 appointments to our Parks and Rec board. Brian O'Neill for a full term, and he has taken the place of Nancy Mendiger. And thank you, Nancy, for 2 full terms and the way you've served the Parks and Rec over the years. And then Lori Marine, who was appointed to serve a partial term, was tonight appointed to serve a full term. So we'll confirm those later on in the consent agenda, but thank you to all those individuals. And we had a number of people that turned in applications, and I want to personally thank all those people for applying. And we hope that you'll continue to look for opportunities to serve the city in different ways in the future. A couple of announcements I wanted to make tonight. I want to congratulate the Auburn High girls cross country team for being the state champions. This is the 4th year in a row that they are the state champions, and that is awesome. And the boys team finished 2nd. So we look forward to recognizing them in some way in the near future, as we traditionally do with our championship teams, but congratulations to them. Speaking of Auburn High School athletics, this coming Friday night, Auburn High School will host Central Phoenix City in the state 7A semifinals. This is the first time, I believe, in about 12 years that Auburn High has been able to host a semifinal football game, so it should be exciting at Doug Sanford on Friday night, and hopefully they'll win this game and go on to the Super 7 in the first week in December. Speaking of football, the annual Beat Bama Food Drive is going forth right now as we approach the Auburn, Alabama game next Saturday and Thanksgiving next week. I would encourage anybody who is listening tonight that there are locations around town. The Kroger and the Winn-Dixie are 2 of the primary locations with grocery stores that you could drop your food off. But if you go to the food bank's website, there's a number of other locations there as well. But it's a crucial time of year. There are many people in our community that are food insecure. And the East Alabama Food Bank does an awesome job of trying to support these families, and they need our help and our support. So I encourage everybody to buy a little bit extra next time you go shopping, and please drop it off at their locations. I want to thank everybody from the city for supporting the State of the City last week. And I especially want to say thank you to the public affairs staff here who did such a fantastic job making all that happen. Congratulations to all those who won the Lamplighter Awards, 6 very special and unique individuals from our community who are doing great things to make Auburn a better place for a lot of people. Speaking of Thanksgiving, this coming Sunday night at First Baptist Church in Opelika, the Lee County Ministerial Association is having their Thanksgiving service, and the community is invited. I'll be participating in that service with Mayor Gary Fuller, and look forward to that. This is also Think a Teacher Week. So I hope we'll all encourage our children. If you have kids that are going to school to thank those teachers, maybe you as a parent will send that teacher a note and tell them thank you. And as we cross the paths of all of our teachers in our community, tell them thank you, especially this year and what a hard, difficult situation that they've all had to endure and work in. So thank you to all of our teachers. This past weekend, I went out to our soccer complex and participated in a ceremony with a travel soccer tournament that the Auburn Thunder was hosting. And what a beautiful day it was Saturday, and what a well-organized, well-planned event that was. I believe there were over 90 teams here participating. About half of those teams were coming from far enough away that they were staying in hotel rooms. So it was a great event for our community, and I thank our Parks and Rec staff and any other staff here at the city that helped with that, and thank all the Thunder and their parents for volunteering to make that happen. And the Iron Bowl is next week, as I mentioned earlier, and myself and Mayor Maddox are continuing a long-standing tradition of placing a $100 bet on the ball game. And my charity this year, should the Tigers win, I'll be happy to receive a $100 check from Mayor Maddox for the United Way of Lee County. So War Eagle and go Auburn. Any other council members have an announcement that they'd like to make this evening?
Yes, I would.
Yes, ma'am.
On last Thursday, I was honored to talk with Girl Scout troop at Town Creek Park, and they wanted me to speak with them about our city government and some of our duties. And the girls were very engaged, and they asked many questions. So that was an honor to be asked to speak to the Girl Scouts. And like I told them, if they need me again, I'll be glad to do it again.
Good. Thank you, Connie, for making time to go speak to those outstanding young ladies. It's exciting to know that they care enough about our community at that age that they want to learn about what goes on. So good for you for doing that. Anybody else on the council have an announcement or something they'd like to say right now?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead, Kelly.
Thank you. I'd like to extend my thanks to Karen Schneider, all of the staff at Cary Wood School, and especially to all the young students who are at Cary Wood School for our Veterans Day drive-through parade, if they would. We were fortunate to be accompanied by Auburn Police Division as well as the Fire Division. And the young kids were very excited and enthused, and I'm tickled to death that our young people are being exposed to the notion that freedom is not free. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who was involved in that. So thank you very much. Yeah,
great. Thank you, Kelly. And we're happy for you that you got to participate. And obviously, thank you for your work. Thank you for Cary Woods for doing that. That was a great idea. Anyone else from the council? Okay, we'll move forward to Auburn University Communications. Abby?
Hey everyone. Okay, so starting with COVID, the university has reported its lowest cases this past week, but the state is seeing an overall spike in cases. And as a response, the university is going to tighten guidelines and restrict in-person gatherings to a 50-person maximum instead of 100 people. And also the Auburn Medical Clinic is now offering the antibody test, which is a big deal because those are still kind of scarce tests. And so it's a big deal that they came to our medical center, and students are encouraged to take both an actual COVID-19 test and an antibody test before going home, just to make case tracking easier. And then on Friday, November 20th, this Friday at 2 p.m., the Student Center is going to be renamed from just the Auburn University Student Center to the Harold D. Melton Student Center. And that's in honor of Harold D. Melton, who is currently serving as the Chief Justice on the Georgia Supreme Court and was also the first Black SGA president at Auburn University. And this event will be live streamed and broadcasted at aub.ie/Melton ceremony. And it's open to anyone who wants to watch it. It's unfortunately an invite-only event in person on campus because of COVID-19, but that link is on the homepage of the Auburn University website as well. And then, as you mentioned earlier, the Beat Bama food drive does end tomorrow, and we are currently doing really well, and we would like to beat Bama in anything and everything as always. And so that unfortunately ends tomorrow. So keep bringing in cans. Winn-Dixie, Kroger, there are campus locations all over where you can drop off cans, and we can hopefully beat Bama because we're evil. Also, the rural medicine program, Auburn is partnering with the University of Alabama to provide streamlined instruction to Auburn students who want to become doctors in specifically rural parts of the state. And this program is the beginning of the rural medicine schooling, and the students will participate and complete their rotations and instruction in Birmingham or Huntsville. And the goal of the program is to increase the amount of medical attention to places in the state that currently lack critical health care. And then lastly, Thanksgiving break. So for students, Thanksgiving break begins a week from today on Tuesday, November 24th. And following the week of Thanksgiving, students will have online finals and are not required to return to campus. So there will be more quiet and a little bit more of a lull around campus. But the spring semester begins for us January 11th. And that's because they pushed everything back since we don't have a spring break anymore because of COVID. So this will be my last city council meeting for the calendar year, but I'll resume attendance in January. And I wanted to thank you all for your virtual hospitality and excitement to involve me this year. I've really enjoyed calendar year, and I can't wait to see what 2021 holds. And I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you, Abby. We're glad to have you back, and I appreciate your enthusiasm and your willingness to be a part of our meeting each and every time we get together. And we look forward to seeing you in January. Hope you have a happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, Mayor, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Several council members brought canned foods or have canned foods to show off that they'll be contributing tomorrow. We did this last year in person. And some of us were remiss in bringing them to their office, but I know many of us, Connie and Kelly and Jay, I'm sure some of the others as well, have canned goods that they're showing off, and they So just wanted to let you know, Abby, that we are there with you and we will be making our contribution as a council.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Good. All right. At this time, we'll open it up for citizens' communications on items on tonight's agenda. Please remember this is just communication on things we'll be talking about later on in the agenda. Please give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak. I will say that there are a couple of things under resolutions tonight where we have public hearings involved. Neither one of our ordinances do have a public hearing, so if you would like to talk about either item on under our ordinances tonight, now would be the time to talk about those, okay? All right, so name and address for the record. If you'll just raise your hand with the application there, we'll call on you. And I see Mr. Brett Basquin is first. Brett?
Hey, good evening, Mayor. Brett Basquin, 2128 Moores Mill Road. In the office here, I have with me, I have Michael Monk and Scott Sullivan as part of the Vinton annexation on Enzaminger Road. So hopefully, if I run out of my 5 minutes, these guys can finish it up in their 5 minutes. I want to talk about that annexation. We feel like it's a unique opportunity here. You know, we did get denied in Planning Commission, which their decisions being solely based upon this optimal boundary. You know, this optimal boundary is whether you're in or out is not law. It's kind of a guiding document. And we feel like a closer look is needed for individual parcels adjacent to this optimal boundary on whether or not they're on whether or not they should be annexed into the city. This particular site is, you know, plus or minus, it's just over 90 acres. What we're proposing is to keep it rural and have rural residential lots out there, minimum 3 acres, but most of these lots will be 5-10 acre lots. We're probably looking at only 12 to 15 lots in total out here. We feel there's an unmet demand in the city of Auburn for 3 acre lots. If you want to build a lot on 1/4 of an acre and be able to get a cup of coffee by reaching your hand out the window, there's an abundant supply of those here in Auburn. But if you're wanting acreage and to build a house within the city limits, there's little to no availability of those types of lots. Michael Monk with Michael Island Homes is my client on this. He's anticipating 500 to 600,000 minimum houses out here. So this is going to be a high-end, large lot subdivision per se. We feel like the growth model that's used for the optimal boundary takes a comprehensive look at you know, overall density and demand in the city. But what it doesn't take into account is the availability and suitability of land for development. There's really not land available for this type of acreage, for these types of lots, for this type of product. And so we feel like this is a optimal location and kind of meets that need. In regards to infrastructure, this is all on well and septic. There is no water and sewer out here, nor are we planning on bringing it. It would be well and septic infrastructure for these large lots. Again, we feel like it's worth taking a second look. This was on Planning Commission just last Thursday, so it's just been a few days since that hearing, so we haven't had much time to react. Just so you know, it does state in here that the city schools is opposed to the annexation. In conversations with the city school system, their response is solely based on whether you're inside or outside of this theoretical optimal boundary that was established, you know, from a 10,000 foot view back in 2030, in the comp plan 2030. So, you know, it's almost been 10 years. We feel like that boundary needs to be reevaluated for current conditions, and feel like this would be a good use on the property. That pretty much ties me up. Can you restart the clock for Mr. Monk to be able to talk?
Sure. That'll be fine. Is that okay, Jim? Is that appropriate? So hold on just 1 second, Mr. Monk. All right, go ahead, Michael.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I appreciate your time and consideration of our request this evening. While meeting in person would be optimal, I appreciate everyone's agreeing and accommodating our unique situation that we find ourselves in.
Michael, can you give us your address real quick?
I'm
Mike.
sorry. 725 Chadwick Lane.
Okay, go ahead.
I apologize. I've had an opportunity since we began this process to speak with members of the Planning Commission, members of the school board as well. And specifically, as I look at this and study this comp plan, and as I look at our initial submittal to the Planning Commission, the comp plan states that it prioritizes the incorporation of property, but it does not necessarily define the incorporation of property. That its intent is to facilitate the discussion of the annexation process and to be used as a useful guide as opposed to a rule or a law. And inasmuch, I hope that our request for annexation of this property itself will be judged on the merit of the individual property and not necessarily this comp plan and treating it as a rule. And just in the word optimal, I believe that while this property may not be deemed optimal by definition, it can still be beneficial to the city of Auburn. And I believe that it would be based on the product that we're wanting to build, based on the demand that I've experienced. I believe it would be an asset to Auburn and not a liability. As I go through and look at some of the concerns that individuals have had, whether it be utilities, water and sewer, which we would have no impact because we do not have access to those. The fire division can serve the property. There's no concerns from a revenue or utility billing office standpoint. Even with the school system, I had an opportunity to spend quite a bit of time this evening with an individual there who educated me, as it were, as to the school board stance on annexation, and that they simply defer to the Planning Commission, who then defers to this optimal boundary, but acknowledge that it's neither a endorsement or opposition to the property itself, that the property itself has not been evaluated to determine what the impact would be, positive or negative, to the school board. And so I guess really in summation, I do think the property would be a benefit. I think it would be an asset to Auburn. I think when you look at it as an individual piece of property, it certainly would be. And I hope that as we have discussion about it, that it will be evaluated on the merit of the property and what we're hoping to accomplish through it, and not simply where it happens to fall on one side or the other of an arbitrary line. So.
All right.
Good.
Did you have a third person want to speak, Mr. Basquin?
No, Scott's good. We're good. We got it covered.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, anyone else would like to speak? Andrew Palmer. Citizens communications on agenda items. All right, Andrew Palmer.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My address is 118 Cecil Lane. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. It was brought to my attention by Mayor Anders that an ordinance was brought before the council that would make parking along certain parts of Sanders Street a ticketable offense. Thankfully, the ordinance was postponed so we could all discuss this matter before people woke up to a ticket on their vehicle. I've spoken with my tenants on Sanders and have made it clear that they are to use the parking provided and to be mindful of guests parking along Sanders. Unfortunately, due to the nature of construction, my construction crews have added congestion to Sanders as we continue work at 442. We will be completed in December, which will greatly help congestion along the street. I've reached out to buyers of my home at 442 Sanders and other owners along the street in between Drake and Bragg, and they have expressed the need to keep parking along Sanders as most of the older properties do not have guest parking. I appreciate your time and hope we can work through this together. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in citizens' communications on items on tonight's agenda? Okay. All right. We'll move forward with the city manager's communications.
First item of business, excuse me, this evening is the announcement of one vacancy on the Historic Preservation Commission. This is an unexpired term which will begin upon appointment and end April 20th, 2021. Appointment will be made at the December 15th, 2020 City Council meeting. The next item of business is the consent agenda. Does any council member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and deal with that item separately?
Yes, I would like to remove item C4.
Item 8C4.
C, 4.
Yeah, 8C4. Okay. All
Oh,
right.
I'm sorry. Yeah, 8C4.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
Okay, so item 8C4 is a contract with Evergreen Erosion Control for the Sam Harris Park Westview Greenway project at a cost of $335,558.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right. Have a motion and a second. Connie?
Okay, my question is, I just want, for the public to know exactly what is this, what is the evergreen erosion? Well, that's the people, but what are they going to be doing there at Sam Harris and Westview?
So it is a path, and I'm going to let the city engineer, Allison, would you mind giving a description of the greenway between Sam Harris and where the path goes?
Yeah, it will connect the existing trail near the pavilion at the existing Sam Harris Park and create a path up to the soccer complex, the soccer fields, and will also include a connection across the creek and tie behind the Humane Society where Ware Drive ties into Pleasant. So there'll be a parking area there, but we'll essentially connect the trail from Foster Street up to the soccer fields and over to Ware Drive.
Okay, and you said the pavilion, it's two pavilions out there. Which one are you talking about? The last one or the first one? That was
the first one, the older one. Yes, ma'am. The one on what I'll call the old side.
Okay. So it's gonna connect back to the soccer field.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Now, what about Westview Greenway? What is Westview Greenway?
That's been the name of the project since it was in the Parks and Rec Master Plan. It eventually will go across Foster Street through the Westview property. But that's just the name we've had on the project. But there's no work on Westview side at this time.
Oh, okay. So you're just doing the other side first.
Yeah, the Sam Harris Park side. Yes.
Okay. I was just curious.
Good.
Thank you.
Anybody else on the council have a question?
Yes. Do we know how long the trail actually is?
Yeah, it's about 3,200 feet. It's just a little over half a mile.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries.
Mayor, that's all we have off the consent agenda.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. The consent agenda is carried forth.
Under ordinances this evening, we have item 9A is replacement of traffic control signs and devices along the east and west sides of Sanders Street. This is the second reading.
Move for approval.
I hear a motion. Did I get a second?
Second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
I've asked Mr. Buston about the city policy on parking on bike paths and multi-use paths. And the area we're talking about for this item has a multi-use path that extends the length of Sanders from Bragg to Drake. And I learned that multi-use paths, it's okay for people to park on them, that they're intended for bicyclists, joggers, and walkers. Whereas bike paths, it is prohibited to park on them. Is there a specific configuration that designates a path as either a bike path or a multi-use path?
Mr. Buston, if I may, I'd like the city engineer to weigh in. I believe this one's actually a multi-use lane, which is even different than a multi-use path.
Okay.
Just want to clarify that, Allison.
I think you're correct.
We had quite a discussion about this, and that's the distinguishing factor. You can park in a multi-use lane, but not a bike lane. And this was done in place of the sidewalk. There wasn't a sidewalk on Sanders at the time this lane was striped, and the sidewalk has since been installed. And that is also why it has not been an issue in terms of an ordinance to date.
All right, thank you. Is there a possibility of redesignating that lane as a bike path? Or is there something that keeps it from being designated?
Allison, I'm not sure how to answer that, so I'll let you answer it.
I'm not sure how to answer it either. We can look at it and see how it fits on our bike path plan, our plan. That's an interesting question. I've never had that question before, but I can definitely look and see if that's a possibility.
If it was the bike path, then we wouldn't even be having to address this. Is that correct? Well, anyway, we may or may not put it that way. That's fine. Okay, just a little additional information. I have put it out on the Nextdoor app for 2 residents, and I did receive 10 responses from residents, mostly Cary Woods residents. And initially, the idea was that we were proposing, or that the city was proposing, the entire stretch between Drake and Bragg as eliminating parking on one side or the other. As you can see in the packet, it's just that one block between Cecil Lane and that Drake, I guess it is. And there's, of course, the construction that was mentioned earlier, the townhouse that routinely overflows. And there's another issue as well, in that there's a Tiger Transit stop at that corner. And I've witnessed students parking along that stretch, and they get off and they leave their cars there all day long while they hop on and off of Tiger Transit. So there's a number of things that cause congestion at that in that one block. Of the 10 folks that responded, the majority of them were Cary Woods residents that use that road for traffic. And 8 of them expressed that it is certainly a concern. I don't know if this solution that was being proposed is the right answer, but it is a documented area of concern. The other 2, one said they did not have sufficient parking if they had guests, And then the last one was a similar concern that perhaps it could be made into a bike lane instead of a multi-use lane. So, I mean, that's just kind of just for everybody's information on the background of this. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you.
Anyone else in the council?
Do we have, it looks like this is going to affect about 7 parcels. Do we have any kind of consensus besides Mr. Palmer's regarding their desire for the property here?
Let me look at this text I received. I don't know if you could say a consensus right there, but I can tell you that the property that he mentioned, the house that he's renovating right across the street, they are not in favor of this, not allowing parking on the street. That would be Jay and Tamara Moore, who are buyers of the home at 442 Sanders Street, which is part of the problem. There's been a lot of subs that have been parking trucks and vehicles along the road at the same time. And then Ben Gray at 386 Sanders Street, and a gentleman by the name of Dr. Tarver at 423 Sanders Street. And what Mr. Palmer told me is that they were all not in favor of having a restrictive policy at this point in time and preventing parking on the street. So I don't know if that's a comprehensive list. Mr. Palmer owns 7 pieces of property on Sanders Street as well. Brett, so I'm trying to answer your question.
Yeah. No, so how many are affected? How many of Mr. Palmer's properties are affected by this potential ordinance?
I'm not sure I can answer that question.
Okay. And you named off 3 other homeowners, is that right?
Yes, property owners. Yes, property owners. I would call them property owners. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Mayor, Matt.
I have a question.
Yeah, Tommy started first. Connie, I'll get you second, okay? All right, go ahead, Chief.
Jim, if this were to be denied tonight, can this come back before the council? How long will it be before this can come back before the council? If we get, what I would like to see is a chance for anytime you get government involved in something, it usually doesn't work out that well. So if the citizens can work out the parking problem over there, I certainly would be in favor of allowing them a chance to do it. Does that limit the time it can come back before the council again in case they can't work it out? Then we can.
No, they could come back next meeting if it didn't work. There's no limitation on any time frame that they would have to wait to come back.
Yes, sir. I would prefer to let the citizens try to work their own problem out of there with the parking. If we can't do it, then we may have to pass something to keep them parking over there. But I would certainly be in favor of giving them a chance rather than government stepping in and getting involved in it. Thank you.
Yeah, Connie.
Okay. My question is, okay, I think I understand where this area is at, and it's right there where they built those new, I guess,
townhomes.
Houses. Okay, so the additional parking along the side of the road, is that additional parking when they park alongside of each side of the road? Who's it accommodating? Is it accommodating those townhomes, or is it just people just parking, like doing football games? Or because I've come through there because it's just a street over from me, and I've come through there and it's really congested and it's really tight in there when you got cars parked on both sides of the road. So is that additional parking that where they're trying to park side the road? Is that for those townhomes? Or is it just people just parking there?
Connie, I'll give you my 2 cents on that. Mr. Griswold lives around the corner as well. And for everybody to understand, I live about a half a block from here. My detection is most of the cars out there are affiliated with the townhomes. They could be residents who are just choosing to park on the street as opposed to parking in their parking space, or they could be friends. I'm not quite sure. But Mr. Palmer has been redoing a house right directly across the street. And there have been a lot of trucks and vehicles over there. And they're quickly trying, I believe he's got a December 1 closing on this house or move in for the new owners. So they are working fast and furious to try to get this house done. And that has certainly added to it. What Kelly said earlier, he shared with me in an email. I hadn't been aware of that happening. And I think it's really fascinating to think that people would drive over there and park their car and leave it there all day and get on the Tiger Transit truck bus, which there is a stop right there at that stop sign. So I would think most of this has been created by activity around the townhomes and activity around the renovation of this home. That's my opinion, Connie.
Okay, because, one of the reasons I guess I have a concern about it, because I noticed that a lot of people walk their dogs and stuff in that area. And so I'm trying to figure out how does it affect the people who's actually walking, because if cars are parked on both sides, that means somebody walking in the road, walking the dogs in the road until they get to the sidewalk right there on Drake. So
well, there is a sidewalk that goes all the way from Drake to Bragg, I believe, right, Jim? So
Yeah, there's a sidewalk.
There's a sidewalk there for people to walk on that's not been obstructed, I don't believe.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions I have.
Okay. Anybody else?
Was this a citizen-driven, I mean, is the origins of this from a citizen-driven petition with planning, or how did this begin?
This began with Mr. Griswold, who contacted me. I contacted our staff.
Now, I'd like to clarify that. I pointed out that there was a problem, and it had been reported to me that there was congestion on occasion. And then the city is the one that came up with this solution. I had no input into this solution whatsoever. But I have to agree with Chief Dawson. If Mr. Palmer thinks he can resolve this issue, then that's fine. But I would also ask that the city take a look at redesignating not just this one, but any other bike lanes that exist throughout the city, to see if it's appropriate to make them into bike paths. We call ourselves a bicycle-friendly community, and yet we allow parking in the middle of the lanes that people are supposed to be using for cycling. Again, I have received a lot of input on this, but I have not taken a position one way or another on whether or not we ought to have no parking along this road.
Anyone else?
If it sounds like most of the cars parking there belong to the houses in the vicinity, in front of it or across the street, and there is an operable sidewalk, I'd hate to this week decide we want to put a no parking lane in, and 2 weeks later have complaints from the homeowners that can't park in front of their house anymore, and have to look at, retracting that designation. So I think I would agree with Chief and Kelly, about seeing if the neighbor, it sounds like Mr. Palmer, the landowner, has been made aware of a situation and, at least attempt to get it resolved.
Thank you, Jay. I agree with Chief. I agree with Jay, and I agree with Mr. Griswold. I think that, let's give these young men and these owners of these properties a chance to get this figured out. And if it's still a problem, then we can always come back and revisit this. They weren't aware that we were potentially considering this, and I thought that was the case, and that's why I held it up. I want to be very transparent with everybody that the 16 guys who live in these 4 townhomes are the members of the same fraternity that I was a member of in college and that my son was a member of. And one of the young men that lives there is a kid that grew up next door to me on Sanders Street. So I do have a connection to the people who are living there. I don't want to hide from that. But I do think, in fairness, let's give them a chance to figure this out and do the right thing. And if it's still an issue, then we can come back and revisit it. But I would encourage the council to deny this ordinance tonight.
And we certainly don't want to hold it against the kid just because he's friends with you.
That's exactly right, Chief. I appreciate you bringing that up too. It's important.
Well, just one other question.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me just ask this. So I guess the person who done the construction and everything, so his job is to be completed by December 1st. Is that what
I would say yes, approximately, Ms. Taylor. Yes, approximately.
Okay, so by December 1st, and then we got holidays coming in, and I heard the students say that they probably not going to be here. So a lot of that congestion will probably be gone during the rest of November and December. Is that
I think that's
possible?
probably not unreasonable to think that that's going to happen. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions from the council? So, Jim, what we're voting on tonight is to approve the no parking zone on the east and west. All right. So that's what we have a motion and seconds to approve this. All right. Okay. So this will be a voice vote. Roll call vote. Excuse me, roll call. So everybody ready to vote? Everybody understand what we're doing here? Okay. Lindsay?
Dawson,
No, ma'am.
Dixon,
No.
Griswold,
No, ma'am.
Hovey,
No, ma'am.
Parsons,
No.
Smith,
No, ma'am.
Taylor,
No.
Witten,
No.
Anders.
No.
Item 9B is Brett Vasquin requesting annexation of 93.96 acres of property located north of 1100 Ensminger Road. Planning Commission unanimously recommended denial of this request.
Move for approval.
It's
an ordinance. It's an ordinance, Mr. Dixon.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You want to introduce it?
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
All right.
Second.
All right, have a motion and seconds. Anyone on the council have a problem moving forward with a vote on this evening? Hearing no one. Lindsay with the roll call.
Dixon,
No.
Griswold,
I'm sorry, this is for unanimous consent. Is that
Oh, I'm
correct?
sorry.
Unanimous consent.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Can I
That's
take
okay.
back?
Okay.
Yes.
so you're a yes, okay.
Yes. Sorry.
Griswold,
Yes.
Hovey,
Yes, ma'am.
Parsons,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor,
Yes.
Witten,
Yes.
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Anders.
Yes. All right, this time we'll open for questions or comments from the council.
Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Ms. Whitten.
So I just would like to speak to some of the comments that were made in citizens communications, particularly that this is just a guideline, which it is, but it's a pretty significant guideline and a significant boundary that we've held pretty close to, especially during my tenure. And when I started on this council 6 years ago, one of the reasons I ran was to help to hold true to that optimal boundary, because we were sprawling pretty quickly. And so for me, it's pretty cut and dry that this is outside the optimal boundary. The school system has in black and white stated that they do not think that this should be annexed. You know, we can have conversations with whomever we want in the school system, but in black and white in our packet for a formality is that they are not in support of this. And I just think that even though these might be on wells and septic tanks in the beginning, after these homeowners are one generation or second generation homeowners, they're going to come back to this council and request that they receive the same city services that all taxpayers in the city of Auburn pay. And that would be their right. And so I think we set ourselves up for failure by annexing this property at this point in time. We've not reevaluated the optimal boundary, and until we do such, I think that we should hold to that.
Thank you. Anyone else on the council have a question or a comment they'd like to make?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Griswold.
Yeah, I thoroughly concur with Beth. I know that's an unusual thing, but it's a good thing for this evening. The fact that we have unanimous denial recommendations from both the staff and the planning commission, and then a lack of support from the school board is significant. I had a question. Public safety was evaluated and said that fire could serve us. We didn't mention anything about police. Are they currently in the police jurisdiction?
They are, technically that property would be considered in the police jurisdiction. However, we do not go past a county boundary. And so for practical matters, even though this is still Lee County with that little tooth that goes up above there, for all practical purposes, patrols would go to Ensinger Road up where there are a few houses, but they wouldn't go all the way up to the top there because that basically crosses into Chambers County, so to speak. So we kind of draw the line on that right across where you would think Chambers County was. But technically it is in the police jurisdiction, yes.
Okay, thank you. I've been contacted by some residents out there and who have uniformly asked that this not go forward. But their comment on the police protection was that even though they're way out there, technically in the police jurisdiction, they're sort of in a no man's land that has both Chambers, Lee, and Auburn folks that occasionally touch base, but that in reality, they're not really receiving much public safety support out there today because of that strange triangle up there. The other thing that concerns me about this is the fact that it is going to be a septic tank well community, and the number of wells and septic tanks will increase as a result of this if approved, and that is in the Saugahatchee Creek watershed. So I'm not sure environmentally, how that would affect the watershed long term. If this were to go forward, I think that's something that we ought to ask to be clarified. And finally, is there anything that would keep them from building the subdivision that they propose if we denied annexation? Are they going to be able to do it anyway because it's not in the city?
They could.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else on the council? Okay. No other comments, questions for the staff?
You'd have a move for approval because that deals with that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Do I have a move to approve?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second on this. Lindsay with the roll call.
Dixon,
No.
Griswold,
No, ma'am.
Hovey,
No, ma'am.
Parsons,
No.
Smith,
No, ma'am.
Taylor,
No.
Witten,
No.
Dawson,
No, ma'am.
Anders.
No.
Under resolutions this evening, we have item 10A is Keith Griner requesting conditional use approval for a multi-unit development at 620 East Glen Avenue. Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this item and a public hearing is required.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. This time we'll open up the public hearing. If you'd like to address the city council on this issue, we'll ask that you give your name and address for the record, and please raise your hand on the Zoom application. And seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the council? Seeing or hearing no one, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 10B is authorizing the fixing of costs for the demolition of a dilapidated structure that was located at 610 Clark Avenue.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. There's a public hearing with this.
Oh, yes, there is.
We'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address city council, please give your name and address for the record. And please raise your hand on the Zoom application. Okay. Seeing no one, are there any comments or questions for the city manager?
Okay, I just have a question about this property over here. And I saw the cost, I think it was 5,000 or something, $5,088.95 is what we're approving for the landowners to pay that cost back. Now, if the landowners pay that, and I'm just.
Hey, Connie, we're having a hard time hearing you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're having a difficult time hearing you.
Okay.
There you go.
Asking, can you hear me better?
Yes, there's still a buzz in the background, but we can hear you clear. Get closer to your monitor.
Okay. I was just going to ask, once we approve the landowners to pay the cost, and if the landowners pay the cost for the property, they will still own the property, right? But if they do not pay the cost, the city can go in and put a lien on it.
So
explain that to me.
Okay, the city is not taking the property. What the city is doing is putting a lien on the property in the amount that it costs to demolish the structure. So once that lien is satisfied, that means once the property owner pays that lien off, then the property owner has free title to the property. If the property owner wanted to sell the property, he would have to first satisfy the lien in order for the new property owner to take ownership. So we are not taking ownership of the property. We are simply putting a lien on the property to get reimbursed for the cost of demolition.
Okay. Unmute her now.
Connie, you have to unmute.
Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay. So they never pay the cost. Do you give them a time to pay the cost, or how does that work? I'm just curious to know. You put a lien on the property, and I know all the property owners are not located here. So, how do they have a certain period of time that they have to pay back that lien?
So no.
Today about it. So I'm trying for you to explain it to me so I can explain it to them, because someone did call and ask me about it.
So basically, they can come and pay it off. Just give us a check and we're done. Or they can come to us and we can set up a payment plan, and they can pay so much per month or so much. They have to stay with that plan once it's started, but they can pay it all off over time. We can give them a considerable amount of time, just understanding that the property cannot be sold or developed or anything until the lien is satisfied, till that is paid off.
Okay. Okay. I think I understand. Okay.
Anyone else in council have a question or comment? Okay, we do have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. No opposition. Okay, motion carries.
Those are all the items we have on the agenda this evening.
Okay. At this time, we'll open up for a citizens open forum. This is an opportunity for our citizens to speak to the council about anything on your mind. We'd ask that you give your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes. Seeing no one, we'll close the citizens open forum. I'd like to encourage everybody and hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving next week. If you're traveling, please be safe. Considering the world we're living in with the virus that is starting to spread again, please be careful in all your activities, but enjoy your loved ones. And we have a lot to be thankful for. And one of those things is being able to live here in this great city. And I thank all of you. I didn't say thank you last time, but we've passed our second anniversary as a council serving together. So thank you to each of the members of the city council for your commitment, your dedication to the citizens. and I hope everybody has a happy holiday, and we'll see you in December. Do I have a move to adjourn?
Mayor, if I may, I'd like to also wish you and the council and city staff a very happy Thanksgiving. Hope everybody has a safe one. Look forward to seeing you back on December the 1st. And I know it's been a rough year in some ways, but there's always a way to find a blessing, and we've all been blessed tremendously, especially in the city of Auburn. And I'm very thankful for that myself. And wish everybody to have a safe and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Chief. All right, do I have a move to adjourn?
Wait a minute, I want to say something.
I'm sorry, Connie. I apologize. You go right ahead.
Are we meeting that Friday after Thanksgiving? Did we decide on whether we're gonna have a packet meeting?
We're not. There will not be a packet meeting. So Jim everybody will receive their packets. So on Monday morning, if you got any questions, you better get with the staff.
Okay, well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yep. Thank you.
Be safe.
All right. Move to adjourn.
So move.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.